Remember the $1 trillion, 170-kilometer mirrored city slicing through the Saudi desert? The one with flying taxis, robot maids, and 5-minute commute to anywhere?
And so we're doing all of the excavation, and we're actually putting the piles in the ground. We're due to start pouring the foundations of the first phase of the line, and then we'll start to become vertical later this year.
Hey, I'm Steve, this is Megaprojects, and welcome to part 2 of our Neom trilogy. Today we're on the ground at the line, where you can stand and watch the construction of their futuristic and possibly doomed supercity. Trust me, what's actually happening on the ground is way weirder, way wilder, and way more real than all those fancy artistic renders. In part 1, we took you inside Neom's vision for the future and work within the line, leaving you with 2 cliffhangers. Is 2025 the year Neom finally goes vertical, and will Saudi Arabia's piggy bank, the PIF, actually fund the dream? Since then, we've been on the ground, and the answer is a bombshell. It's a tale of 2 Neoms, almost 2 brothers. You have Big Bro, the line, who is so broke that he just pawned a vital organ, his spine, to stay alive. And let's be clear, that sacrifice kills the full 170-kilometer vision in our lifetime. And then you have the little bro, Trojena, with the royal Amex in hand, who is blasting billions to chisel his mountain kingdom out of bare rock. But why such a split? According to Bloomberg, the Saudi government borrowed the most on record in 2025 because oil revenues are down while the PIF juggles an unsustainable portfolio of hugely expensive gigaprojects. But the numbers you're seeing here are way too low. More on that, plus construction update on the rest of the Neom universe in part 3, because today we really want to focus on just Trojena and the line. 2 brothers, 2 contrasting realities, and 1 burning question. Who gets daddy's car keys, and who's going to be stuck mowing the lawn? So, grab your hard hats, because today we're going on site. Our first destination is the former village of Gayal, or where it used to be before they kicked everyone off the land and demolished the buildings, like this one here. This is where they're building the first phase of the line at the hidden marina. The plan is to construct 3 800-meter-long modules with vertical construction kicking in later this year. Within sight of the line, they're currently building a 1.2 gigawatt wind farm, enough to power a small city. They've also just finished building the first of several giant robot factories in a $350 million joint venture with Samsung and GMT Robotics to make rebar steel cages, reducing labor by 70% and costs by 40%. They've also built cement factories, which produce concrete with 30% lower carbon emissions. These factories are prototypes for going all in on robot automation. Neom built this visitor center, where we got to see for ourselves the colossal scale of the Big Dig. They've dug a trench 4 kilometers long, 1.5 kilometers wide, and 70 meters deep. Those cranes you see in the background, that's Module 46, well, they'll start going vertical. They've sunk 5,500 foundational piles up to 80 meters deep into the bedrock. Now compare this to Neom's own footage from February 2024 and February 2025. They've made a bunch of progress over the last year. They weren't as fast as they wanted to be, and we'll get into that in part 3, but the initial big dig is done. These guys are ready to go vertical, and the construction start is imminent. Or if not, they've just dug the world's biggest swimming pool, though those cranes would make for some seriously overqualified lifeguard towers. In a move of all-in or bust, Neom's chief builder, Dennis Hickey, has put out the first 3 mega tenders to contractors. And when we saw the quantities of concrete and steel in those tenders, we had to create a new unit of measurement for this kind of ambition worthy of Pharaoh Khufu. So forget cubic meters. Today we are measuring in Great Pyramid units. This is the Giza Plateau. You probably recognize it, the big pyramids in Egypt. The Great Pyramid of Khufu has a volume of about 2.6 million cubic meters, or 1 Hoover Dam, or 1 Trojena Dam. All right, so grab your popcorn. We have found a leaked Neom animations. So for each of these tenders, we're going to show you their animations, and then we're going to start stacking up some pyramids. First comes the Big Dig, excavating a trench up to 80 meters deep. Now let's convert that into pyramid units. The 170 million cubic meters they've dug out would pack the Giza Plateau with 65 pyramids. That is an incredible amount of earth moved. Since we're building on sand, we now need to fix the ground, with foundation piles needing 3.5 million cubic meters of concrete. Now comes our first tender, the 6.2 million cubic meters of concrete for the raft foundation, up to 8 meters thick. Now let's convert that into pyramid units. The 16,400 foundation piles, 1.5 pyramids. The raft foundation, 2.5 pyramids. Our second tender delivers the reinforced concrete and steel cores, 25 by 25 meters, housing all of the vertical transport systems, some of which are big enough to fit a semi-trailer. Our third tender digs out the basement levels because every self-respecting megastructure needs a decent dungeon, right? Those cores pop up every 100 meters. What looks like windows of a skyscraper are all elevator doors for those super elevators. Okay, so time for the next pyramid drop. The basement, another Khufu. The cores, 1.5 pyramids. Wait, how about the steel? Another Khufu or 100 Golden Gate bridges. Now that's for all 3 modules in the first phase. For just module 46, the concrete for building the foundation and basement is 2 Great Pyramids and 1 Menkaure. Each individual module is like building the pyramids of Giza, which makes the pharaohs look like they were playing with Legos. But we're not done yet. So what is this? Utilizing a manufacturing approach. In plain English, Samsung's robot factories won't only be used to make the rebar cages. We're also talking more of an IKEA-style assembly line for prefab skyscraper chunks, which are then lifted into place. Next come the primary decks, which are 16 meters thick. Those are their main pedestrian boulevards, which house all the transport and infrastructure underneath. Then those prefab assets from the robot factory put in, and finally we put on the mirror facade. This plug to the Red Sea can only be removed once the groundwork, the piles, raft foundations, and basements are complete across all 3 modules. Only then can they fill the marina for cruise ships to sail in. So let's be clear, there's no phasing that first gigantic footprint, because building just one lone module would look less like a revolution and much more like a very expensive mirrored donkey shed. So the bare minimum, the stripped down starter pack, means everything in those mega tenders plus the primary decks and a full wrap of mirror glass for 3 modules. But all of this stacking pyramids like Lego bricks almost makes you forget that the line is kind of broke. You know the saying that something costs an arm and a leg, or the idea of selling a kidney when you're desperate? Well, facing this Pharaonic bill, Neom decided to sacrifice its spine. And we're not only talking about a massive lack of ethical backbone, we're talking about the actual backbone of their 170-kilometer long vision, which proved so easily negotiable. You might remember in part 1, Dennis Hickey proudly walked us through the planned 6 layers of mobility, especially a high-speed rail line called the Spine going through this mountain tunnel. We wondered, why is Hickey talking about overground metro and underground GMT? If you build the same time, you build side by side. Unless they're postponing the high-speed rail and the construction of Neom International Airport till after 2040. So to get to the bottom of it, we ventured into the Sharma Valley, driving past these vast stretches of surviving palm groves after the farmers were kicked out 5 years ago. We were looking for these tunnel portals, and the scene that greeted us told the whole story. Work has clearly stopped. The entrances are effectively mothballed. But canceling the mountain tunnel kills the Spine Metro line and the Neom International Airport. It's an admission that the dream of the grand 170-kilometer line is dead. You might ask why? Well, it's to free up about $1 billion to build the raft foundations in the basement for Module 46. And you gotta admire Hickey's commitment to the bit. He's hyping a transport system that he knows has been axed. That's like bragging about training for a marathon after you've scheduled your elective leg amputation. But while the line is selling its organs to keep the lights on, Trojena is a different story. There's no glossy renders here. It's just 10,000 workers terraforming a mountain valley. With the 2029 Asian Winter Games only 4 winters away, all Trojena talks about is skiing, which is part hype and part pep talk for an Olympic committee wondering whether these desert peaks can really stay frosty. And yes, to prove their frosty bona fides, they've already got a ski slope, but it's less than impressive. So then when you arrive for the first time, you're utterly unprepared for the sheer shock and awe you're feeling. First, it's the endless parade of dump trucks, hundreds of them, all driving side by side. And then you see the valley floor itself, where they're building a $5 billion colossal artificial lake. And all around, the mountainsides are sculpted into pyramid-like steps. You pinch yourself to check if you're dreaming, because it feels like you're witnessing a biblical act of creation. This is how the Water Village looked 1 year ago, and this is how it looks now. Over the last year, they've flattened the valley floor with excavated material from the mountainsides in order to create this sprawling construction factory. To show us how raw mountain becomes liquid stone, here's Peter Nichols.
The rock in its in situ capacity is either excavated out with an excavator, or in most cases, because it's rock, it gets blasted. It gets loaded up there, and they go into the area behind me. That's the primary crushing area. Once it's crushed, it will be brought into the lake to the secondary crusher.
From there, the crushed rock is further refined into smaller particles, washed to remove dust, and then fed into the batching plant to be transformed into concrete.
Once concrete is batched, it then goes down to the wall, which is about 2 kilometers away.
And this is the money shot. They've started going vertical with the 150-meter dam itself. And make no mistake, this lake is Trojena's key anchor asset, designed to draw in the Dubai crowd with a beach resort in the mountains experience, especially during the peak of summer. Case in point, it's enchanted forest, literally in the lake, connected with a semi-submersible bridge and a stunning promenade for, those viral TikTok trends. But to bring this fairy tale to life, take a look at the engineering involved. The retaining walls for this enchantment are 20 meters thick. That is an unbelievable amount of concrete just to keep the fairy's feet dry. Trojena's ridgeline was designed to bristle with eye candy. A needle-thin discovery tower, a cantilevered mountain observatory, and Cosmic Gate, a full astronomical observatory aimed at Milky Way tourism. They recently carved out a new access road, but considering the current budget squeeze, this road will only serve the Raffles Mountain Resort, which offers similar mountain vistas, making those extra towers kinda hard to justify. And meanwhile, development continues with fresh tenders out for the Chetty Hotel and the sloped residences, and a Ritz-Carlton, all focused on experiencing nature. More on that in part 3. They've blasted a hole into a mountain pass to create the vault. And when we say hole, we mean a trench 250 meters wide, 200 meters deep, and 900 meters long, which makes you wonder if they're expecting to host a fight starring Thanos versus Godzilla in their very own Titan's Alley. The vault is Trojena's central transit hub. It's 2 interconnected buildings, north and south, 200 meters high, 864 meters long, with a central public park, the Plinth, nestled between them, all offering panoramic views of Trojena's valley and lake. When finished, the vault will house apartments, 4- and 5-star hotels, and a shopping mall with 13,000 square meters of retail space. It's also the mountain station for a 3.8 kilometer long time travel tunnel funicular, with boring machines already carving its path to link with the Mirage Visitor Center on the lower plateau, connecting it to the outside world. Looking at the vault's current progress, the Titan's Alley excavation is complete, including access tunnels and roads. The main construction contract, a hefty $2.6 billion, was tendered early this year, but with the 2029 Asian Games looming, it's a race against time. Just like with the line, the critical next steps, pouring the raft foundations and erecting the massive steel cores which house the vertical transport, must kick off this year. According to the animation we're seeing, any delay makes achieving a 2028 deadline nearly impossible. And without the vault as the central transit hub, the Asian Games face a logistical nightmare. Because if you can't go through the vault, it's hard to reach the next thing we're going to show you. Enter the Kraken! Forget calling this a ski village, that's a serious understatement. This Kraken of a building isn't just big, it's vying to be one of the biggest on the planet, featuring a skiable rooftop with 2.3 kilometers of slopes as its tentacles. It's already Saudi Arabia's first supersized building, and it's visibly going vertical, with foundational work and early structures climbing skyward. They've even recently installed the first of its rooftop beams, weighing up to 30 tons. But why build ski slopes on a roof? Well, even at 2,400 meters, it's not reliably cold enough for a decent 3-month ski season. So the Kraken is essentially a giant slope-shaped refrigerator with a ski resort underneath. Now look closely at this shot. Those refrigerators must extend at least until that ramp, and during the Asian Games, possibly until the lake. So if it's all one continuous structure, then the Kraken is arguably the world's biggest building. So this massive undertaking clearly positions Trojena as Neom's favorite son, at least for now. But it also raises a thorny question. If Big Bro the Line is tightening its belt, how come Little Bro keeps whipping out that Royal Amex? And here's a little industry secret. What you see here is the logo of the contractors who won the tender and bankrolled this video. Notice how meticulously it lays out the timeline? The message between the frames is loud and clear. Fund us now or kiss the Asian Games goodbye. Even smaller projects like the line's Robo Factory now come with their own Hollywood trailer. The new rule for 2025? Congratulations, you got the gig. Now you go find the money so we can pay you. And pro tip, a compelling construction video really helps your case. Take, for example, Italy's WeBuild, who's building Trojena's dam. They secured $3 billion through Italy's export credit agency to bankroll their next Neom adventure. So there you have it, friends. The world's most expensive trench on one side, the world's coolest refrigerator mounted on the other, and the clock is ticking. The line is finally going vertical, but without its spine, and so the full 170-kilometer dream is dead. And despite 100 rosy press releases, it's obvious the kingdom's priorities have shifted from the line to other gigaprojects.
Open up the door, can you?
Gigaprojects that are less engineeringly complex but promise more tangible benefits for Saudis, like the Giga theme park Qiddiya, the Red Sea Global Resorts, fueling those viral clips and their many flattering imitations because, well, aesthetics matter, and the 2034 World Cup stadiums, poised to supercharge national pride and global standing. So, in part 3, we're going to give a construction update on Oxagon, Sindala, Magna, and the nature reserves, and then we're going to do a deep dive into the money. We're talking checks that could buy anything from a sunny Mediterranean island to an entire North African economy, and maybe even an Asian superpower. And with stakes that high, the PIF is torn between freeze, fund, or downsize, so we'll road test a few survival modes for the line, like the donkey shed, the monoblade, or the ground scraper. How far can you shrink a megacity before it turns into a meme? And which version, if any, will Neom actually deliver in the next 5 to 10 years? You won't want to miss it. Make sure you're subscribed, hit that notification bell, and we'll see you for the final part of our Neom deep dive. As always, I am Steve, this is Gigaprojects, and we will see you in Taco Town.